glad to have such a nice group here this evening. I'm John Vaughn. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the manager of the center here for Miami University and coordinator of community outreach. I'm really pleased to be able to endorse a bit of what's going on downtown. We were one of the pioneers here about 6 or 7 years ago to join in with the resurgence and the rebirth and the reinvention of downtown Hamilton. And so tonight, I'm very pleased to be able to offer an opportunity for ArtSpace and their representatives to talk with you about what's going on in that big building across the street. So given that, I'm going to introduce Victoria Taylor and first Sarah White.
Hello. Thanks for coming out tonight. I am excited to be here, especially after walking the building with Mike Dingledine earlier today and our guys at Messer. The progress in the building is coming along really nice. So we're just really excited about all the great things happening at the property. So it's going to be really fun for me to give this presentation tonight. So I'll talk a little bit about ArtSpace and our mission. What's that? Nope. Right button, there we go. Now they're right. Well, and also before, I want to reiterate special thanks to all the partners that have helped ArtSpace get off the ground in Hamilton. It's the City of Hamilton has been a really big supporter. Councilman Tim Nabb, all the city departments that we work with have been just terrific along supporting us along the way. We also have a local nonprofit as our co-partner, co-developer, Neighborhood Housing Services of Hamilton. They've also been just really wonderful to work with. And then the Hamilton Community Foundation has also been a really key supporter of the project, as has been the Fitton Center for the Arts. And then, of course, Mike Dingledine has been, an awesome partner on the project and, key in the design of the project. So lots of great people that, we can thank for helping ArtSpace with this project. A little bit about us. So ArtSpace is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3 organization. We're a real estate developer that's focused on the arts. We've been around since 1979, but we've been developing affordable housing for artists since the creation of the low-income housing tax credit program in the late 80s. And we completed our first project in 1990, and that's the Northern Warehouse. We're based in Minneapolis, but we work nationwide, and we've got 36 completed projects in 14 states and Washington, D.C. So that means we've got about 1,200 units in our real estate portfolio that serve over 2,000 artists and their families. We also have almost a million square feet of commercial space that serves creative businesses. It could be like retail space, creative office, or working studios. That translates to about 330 artists that we serve in that capacity. So we consider ourselves a leader in what we call creative placemaking, creating spaces for artists and supporting economic development initiatives in the cities where we work. So in a nutshell, our mission is to create, foster, and preserve affordable space for artists and arts organizations. So I wanted to really give you a sense, what does that mean, a real estate developer for the arts? So I have really photo heavy on this presentation, so you can really get a sense of what our completed developments look like. This is Council Bluffs, Iowa, a really gorgeous historic building in their downtown warehouse district. We do live-work housing. So all of our housing is affordable housing with a preference for artists, and we call it live-work housing because we design the units to be about 100 to 150 square feet larger than the typical market rate apartment. And the reason for that is so that there's enough space within the housing unit for a studio in the house. So, maybe there's an extra nook in the living room where you can have your painting studio, or you can set up your recording equipment, that sort of thing. And so this is just an example of how one of the artists has used his live workspace, and he does his paintings right alongside his living space. And the typical ArtSpace project is ground floor commercial space that we lease to creative businesses, and then housing above. So this is an example from the Northern Warehouse. This is Black Dog Cafe. It's really awesome business, and they support local artists in a major way. They, all their wall space is like gallery space. They have local musicians come and play. It's a treasure in the community. It's really, I think, been instrumental in helping transform that neighborhood and draw businesses in. I love this picture. This is Waukegan. This is, we always joke at ArtSpace, there isn't a building we don't love, and we loved this building and saw lots of potential here. But when we bought it, it was a huge rubble pile, and it turned into this when we were done with it. So we do a lot of historic preservation. That's exactly what we're doing with Mike and SHP and CD Alliance here at ArtSpace Hamilton Lofts, although the building has much better bones than our Waukegan project did. And this is an example of working studio space. So I said we had about 1 million square feet of commercial space. This is in our traffic zone building, which is in Minneapolis. This is where ArtSpace is headquartered. We have our offices on the 4th floor. Second and third floors are working studios for professional artists, and they're really beautiful spaces, and we're really proud of them. And this is just a map, gives you a sense of where ArtSpace is working across the country. The gray spaces are consulting, the dark gray is projects in operation, and the green is pre-development or in construction, and you can see Hamilton is on there. So I wanted to just cover, well, I already covered our partners, but our priorities. What are we trying to do with the project? First and foremost, we want to provide affordable housing with a preference for artists. So creative spaces for artists to thrive. We also want to provide ground floor commercial space that is supportive for new creative businesses. I'll get into a little bit of how we support that later in the presentation. We want to help all of the great work that the City of Hamilton and groups like Mike's Core Fund try and support the redevelopment and spur additional economic development and investment in downtown Hamilton. And then we're also doing historic preservation of a key cultural asset, community asset, and we're employing sustainable building practices as well. This is a rendering of an interior shot. You can see the big, beautiful windows, perfect for an artist, lots of great natural light, high ceilings, hard, durable work surfaces. So some of the project characteristics, we have 42 live-work units. We have 11 studios, 25 one-bedrooms, 3 two-bedrooms, and 3 three-bedrooms. And then we've got about 2,400 square feet of leasable commercial space on the ground floor. And then for the resident amenities, we have a really terrific community gallery and exhibition space on the ground floor, which would be perfect, if there was an art walk or open studio nights. I think really it's a great feature for the building, and the artist tenants get to curate and program that space. Off of the community gallery will also be a common kitchen, so you'll be able to do, light food prep there. We've got loft-like design for each of the units. And in a little bit later in the presentation, I'll cover some of the typical ArtSpace amenities, but hard, durable finishes that won't interfere with your artistic practice is really what we try and do with all the design, all the spaces with that in mind. We'll also have some outdoor seating areas and the pedestrian plaza area. And then I'm going to invite Mike up to talk a little bit about the design and show some construction photos.
Good evening. This has been a very exciting project. It's been a bit of a discovery, realizing how much intervention ArtSpace is willing to do to take on a building. You saw that picture from Waukegan. This building has its own, history. Ostensibly, its glory days were retail, the Strauss department store and other large-scale places. And in its last 20 years, 30 years, it's been mostly just office space. And when I first was touring around the city looking for buildings for ArtSpace, they brought up this building as a potential, and I said, well, there's very little natural light, there's not many windows, it's been ostensibly had party walls on either side of it for many years, and they said, that doesn't matter, we can fix all those things. And the other part of the discovery has been how willing all the agencies and all the partners that ArtSpace reaches out to is also willing to do that. For having the State Historic Society say, we're willing to allow certain things to happen to make this building reusable if you're willing to go over and above trying to make the historic character of the building come back. And the housing agency working with the tax credit agency, seeing all that happen has been really rewarding. So this building, again, was 3 very long, very deep, well, 1 less deep, buildings that were party wall buildings. The only windows were on the north and the south side, and we had some windows on the east side because of a long-standing pedestrian alley here between the Mercantile and this building. But for the most part, those were 2-foot thick firewalls, and they were not intended to ever be breached. But again, we decided that we were going to do what it takes to make this building adapt to its future use. And so you can see we zigzagged the corridor through the building in order to breach that wall many times in order to try to open it up and make it inviting, and then to break up the perimeter of the building with residential units. And again, without the ability to put windows on the west side, this would have been a non-starter project. The city went so far as to commit a new pedestrian alley on the west side, as well as all the space behind that used to be part of the Elder Bierman Furniture Warehouse, and all that is now permanent airspace and natural light and natural ventilation for this building. Without it, again, we were nowhere. And so as we look at the floor plans, here's the interior of the main floor. It's 14-foot ceilings. We thought the asbestos abatement and the lead abatement were going to ruin a lot of the finishes. We thought we'd really virtually lose the tin ceilings, but they used a dry ice process to bait the lead paint, and they turned out beautiful. And so we have about 90% of our tin ceilings intact. And it's really fantastic. And then, of course, you pull up years of carpet and tile and flooring, and you are thrilled to discover below it is, old oak flooring, strip flooring that's in beautiful condition, will be restored. And so 90% of our ceilings, 90% of our floors are all original in this building. And it's just every time we turn around, we get good news about the condition of the building and the things that are in it. This is looking the other way again. If you took out the years of ceilings and all the chandeliers that used to be here in the ballroom, it is just a beautiful space, and again, high ceiling space. So what you're seeing here is ostensibly going to be the community gallery that the residents will all share and be able to do art shows. As we move up the stories, again, one of the first things we found that when Harry Wilkes had turned this into an office building, he buried the historic stair in the back of the building that was part of the department store inside drywall. He didn't use it, he didn't tear it out, fortunately, but he buried it. And so we unburied it, and it's become a key piece of how the building will circulate. And then here's the west facade. Again, the city is granting us an alley from this point all the way back. We'll have a pedestrian plaza in the back that'll be raised and enter the building. So the main entry for the residents of the building will actually be from this west side. And as you can see, we're almost finished putting all the new windows in the west side that makes this, again, this whole project work as well as it works. This is part of the Lindley building, the smaller building to the right. That is actually Harry Wilkes' original desk, still in his office. This was his office. And it was so big we couldn't get it out. So now we're trying to talk about what our next steps will be to memorialize Harry's desk somewhere in this building. So that's one of the last things left. You can see the wall conditions. We stripped layers and layers of wallpaper and years of paint off. We found most things in good condition. Obviously, there's places we have to patch and repair, but overall, this has been a really fortunate project in terms of recovering the history of the building. This is the second floor. Until 3 weeks ago, there was no natural light on this floor in any part of this building. And you can see the new windows along the west side will turn all these into wonderful residential apartments. These are one of our cut-throughs between the buildings. Again, we had masons get through 2 feet of solid masonry and create new openings that will allow us to communicate back and forth between the 2 sides. On the 3rd and 4th floor, it gets to be a little bit smaller footprint, but we get the opportunity to do the same number of units. Again, every unit has natural light, natural ventilation, outside views, operable windows. That's a wonderful achievement. We even got units in the basement that still daylight to Market Street in the alley down by Market Street. So we're doing that. This was the stair we discovered that had just been hidden behind drywall. Again, that was an early discovery, so we were very excited when we found it. They took it out from the 2nd floor to the 1st floor where you see the depression here, but this from the 2nd floor up, the stair exists and is in perfect condition. The stairs are slate, the railings are wood, and it's cast iron in the intermediates. So it's a really nice stair, and it's all going to be restored back to its original condition. and become part of the building. So then our fourth floor, again, finishing these same units. You can see we're keeping the one simple, efficient corridor serving the whole building. Where we had the Lindley building actually get pretty far away from that corridor, that's where we put the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units. And so everything feeds off a very simple corridor. The State Affordable Housing Association wants you to use as many square feet as you can for actual housing units and not waste square footage with circulation and amenities. Again, we were very lucky to be able to do that with this building, connecting 2 existing stairs and creating a very simple circulation corridor. And this is our construction team from Messer touring the building. And again, every window you see behind them is all new windows that have been added to this building since we started construction. And look at the floor. 7/8" strip oak flooring. It's been a great discovery, and it's been very fortunate in terms of how we've gotten here. Then in our basement, we actually got 3 more units because we can daylight out to the alley. We have our corridor, we have tenant storage covered, and we've left the rest of the basement for future commercial art space. So there's opportunities that we haven't even thought about yet left for us in the basement.
I wanted to also, provide an update on where we're at with the schedule. So we started construction in April 2014, and we anticipate that we'll be done and ready for occupancy sometime in April, maybe May of 2015. And because it's affordable housing, there is a pretty vigorous income certification process, which Victoria is going to talk about here in a moment. But because it is pretty rigorous process and lots of documentation that the applicants have to put together, we always do a series of info sessions so that we can talk about the screening and application process. We plan to be here in October, November, and December having those information sessions. I was hoping that we would have all those times and locations and the who, what, when, where, whys all settled by the time I came here tonight, but it looks like October 2nd is definitely a go. We just have to work on securing the location. So I would recommend that folks sign up. If you're interested in leasing a unit, go to artspace.org/Hamilton, and then that'll take you to the project website. And then you can click on Get Property Updates. And we do an every other month kind of property update to the constant contact list. So if you sign up for that, when we solidify all those meeting dates and locations, we're going to send out updates via constant contact, and we'll also promote it on Facebook. So you can also find us on Facebook and like our page and follow us that way too. But typically we'll do, so the plan is to do these info sessions October, November, December, and likely start accepting residential applications in early February. So that gives you plenty of time to get all your application and income certification materials collected. And then we anticipate move-in sometime April or May of 2015. And then if you are interested in commercial space, that's on a completely different process, so you should talk to me now, because there's lots of different considerations, like you have to get your occupancy permit, you have to develop plans and specs, and that sort of thing. So that's a little bit more detailed of a process, so definitely reach out to me now if you're interested in commercial space. And again, just Mike walked you through a lot of the construction pictures and the plans and kind of gave you the general orientation, a lot of great background about the history of the building. And I wanted to also touch on a few of our finished projects, so you kind of get a sense of, when I say we're a real estate developer for the arts, what does that mean? It means that, we love to do loft-like type development. So these are very typical units. These are both our Elgin, Illinois project, which was adaptive reuse of a historic Sears building, Sears catalog distribution building. So you see very high ceilings, exposed ductwork, and I think the thing that the artists like most is that we have solid surface flooring and hard surfaces. So, carpet, if you're a painter, is not really great, so we try and do everything with, art uses in mind. And that includes extra wide doorways. And then here's a picture of Elgin. It's new construction, and then the historic building is behind it. And that's in Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. That one was Northern Warehouse. That was in St. Paul. That's our first project we finished. The other great feature about ArtSpace is, we try and use our common space to maximize potential for showing and exhibiting work. So these are in our Patchogue project, which is in Buffalo, New York. But we've got, again, solid surfaces, but also extra wide corridors, and that allows us to have that allows the resident artist to program the walls with artwork and other kind of exhibition space in the hallways. We also always design our elevators so that they're enlarged elevators, so similar with the wide doorways and the entries to the units, that if you have equipment or you're moving large paintings and that sort of thing, it's the design of the building doesn't impede that kind of activity. And then, all the common spaces, again, we really encourage the artists to program with art. So this is our Everett, Washington project. That's our company president, Kelly Lindquist, our fearless leader, and Catherine Vandenbrink, who is active in our Seattle and our Washington State projects. And then, one of the other things we try to do with our common, resident gallery and exhibition spaces, always make sure there's a connection to the street. So, as Mike showed you in the plan, the resident gallery opens out onto High Street. So if, there were to be an art walk or some sort of street fair going on, the artists could really coalesce around planning and engaging the community and opening up the space for those kinds of events. So there's a really great connection to the street with our resident gallery spaces. And now Victoria's going to come up and talk a little bit about the income restrictions for those that are interested in residential space.
What I want to kind of share with you is how we look at these units and how we look at the income to help people be in what's called the affordable housing. Affordable housing is not, as many folks would think, Section 8 or project voucher type housing. What the design of the program is to create a great place to live at an affordable price. The dollars that put this deal together, there were some dollars put in by the City of Hamilton, which creates what's called a home designation. And those folks, the rent levels that you're seeing over here will be what we'll be looking at for rental rates on the apartments, depending on the unit size. And how that comes into play is it's a set rate. It's not a grading scale like you may see in your metropolitan type housing. But what happens is we take a look at what your income is, and we'll talk about how we go about doing that. And depending on where you fall within the income restrictions will tell us what rent range you're in, whether you're a 30%, 50%, or 60% household. That's driven by income and the number of people in that household. And this is what I'm talking about, the income guidelines. So if I'm a single person artist and my income does not exceed, not even by 1 penny, 14.4, going back to the previous slide, and I wanted to live in an efficiency, I could get in for $271 a month. Does that make sense to everybody?
But then if your income is...
If your income is...
14,401...
Right, then you're going to fall over to the 50%. And it really is down to the penny. I've had people, in my history say, "Why make 14,401?" It puts you up into the next bracket. So this will be what we'll be driving in terms of rental ranges. We work off of the same guidelines that HUD does, which is the proverbial 2 heartbeats per bedroom. Notice I said heartbeats. We are not interested in what your arrangements are. So if you have 3 people in a household, they could qualify for a 2-bedroom or larger if you choose, but I can't allow a 3-person household to be in a 1-bedroom floor plan. You are underhoused in that situation. So what happens is when we gather all the income that goes in that household, how many people are living there, and then that determines what percentage your household's going to qualify for relative to the rent ranges that we saw on the previous slide.
So there's 2 components to qualifying to live at ArtSpace. One is we have a preference for artists, and two is you also have to income qualify. So both artists and non-artists can apply, but since there's a preference for artists, that being in line with our mission, we would look to document in the application process that you are a practicing artist committed to living in a community artist. I've noticed that people get a little nervous. Oh, I don't know if I'm the right kind of artist, and I would just assure everyone that we are very broadly defining artists. This is not an exhaustive list. If you consider yourself an artist, I'm guessing that we would too. So don't worry about that. What we're looking for in eligibility is that you're an artist committed to your craft and that you're committed to living in a community of artists and participating in that community. We also we verify that you're an artist through the Artist Selection Committee, which we'll talk about in another slide. But that's how we demonstrate that you have a body of work. We also look for people that, can demonstrate a commitment to being a good neighbor, have decent credit, and I would say don't worry about if you're earning income from your art, because that's also not a consideration that we look at. It's just, are you a practicing artist, and are you committed to living in a community of artists? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most special thing about an art space. We build the spaces, but it's really about the community that comes to live there and how they use the space to create and collaborate. I think that's what really makes an art space project great. So that's, the artist selection process and the documenting of the artist preference. That's really all that's about. Is just, are you committed to being in a community of artists and contributing to the community life of the building? Why does that keep happening? And again, once the building is up and running, there's 3 general committees that are asset managers and property manager will work with the residents to get off the ground. So maybe the first year you might see the asset manager a little more involved in helping cultivate resident leadership, but once that takes off, we really just are more of a supporting role in all of that. But there's an artist selection committee, an exhibition event committee, and a livability committee. The artist selection committee, after the building is filled and there's a move out and a vacancy, new tenants are going to apply to live there, and there will be an artist selection committee made up of tenants of the housing that will meet with applicants that are interested in living there to document that they're an artist and talk about why living in an art space project would be important to them. The exhibition and event committee is really about programming the hallway space, the resident gallery space, organizing events, and making the building really sing in terms of events and involvement in the community and getting the resident artwork out and before the public. And then the livability committee is just an opportunity to interface with ArtSpace and WALIC during operations. So if there's anything that's not going quite right with the building, it's an opportunity to work with management on solutions. So, we're long-term owners. We don't dispose of our properties. So we're involved and want to keep people happy living there. So this is the way that we connect during operations with tenants, make sure that they're enjoying the experience of being in an ArtSpace property. But this is not an exhaustive list. Lots of our active communities have tons of other, resident-run programs. It just really depends on the preferences of the artists that are in the building. I think this is the slide that Victoria wanted to talk about, and that is going through the application income qualification process. And you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. We're here to partner with ArtSpace from the standpoint of providing a space that everybody is comfortable with and knowing that you have good neighbors. One of the things that we will be doing from our side of the deal with every applicant will be conducting a credit, criminal, and national sex registry verification. We're working to try to provide you with good neighbors. Credit is not as a critical component as those other 2 are, okay? We all know that there's been economic times, and when you're an artist, you don't always have the benefit of, flourishing resources there for you. So we take that into great consideration. Remember, this is an affordable property, so we have to live within those income restrictions. So one of the things that you folks can start doing ahead of time, if you know you have an interest there, I wanted to share with you a couple items that we will need that are requirements under the Affordable Housing Program. We have to be able to verify who you are. So that means we're going to need some form of a birth certificate or passport, Social Security card, driver's license. You're going to need to be able to tell us how you might have money coming into your household, whether that's through current pay stubs, if you have an outside employer, or at least the employer's information, or tax returns. And I tell you this in advance so that you have the opportunity to get those things together, because that will help us facilitate the application process so that we can take you from start to finish in a very quick manner. All of this information, once we begin the process, is only good for a proverbial 120 days. That's one of the rules with the guidelines. When that 121st day comes, we have to re-verify it all again. So we will be working very closely with the applicants to time the information that we need based on when ArtSpace will be releasing units to us. Our goal would be to get keys from them, walk the unit, and walk right over and hand you the keys so you're moving in that same day and enjoying your new home. If you have any other questions on that criteria, please let me know. But the essence here too is that we're going to give you the comfort and security of who your neighbor is, and that everybody has gone through the same screening process that are residing in your building.
And then once the application process with Victoria and her team at Wallach is done, then we move on to documenting the artist preference. So you'll go through the application, the income certification, the background check process, and then you'll meet with the artist selection committee. And I would just want to assure everyone that that is, a really friendly, very supportive process. It's absolutely not juried. It's for the initial filling of the building, it's comprised of ArtSpace staff, most likely members of our asset management team that you'll meet when the October, November, December residential leasing info sessions. And then also local artists that aren't interested in living there but are supportive of the development. We'll try and round up some artist volunteers to also sit on the committee and participate. But really what it is it's just an opportunity to tell us about your work, show us what your work is all about, and talk about why living at an ArtSpace project why living in an ArtSpace property is important to you. Again, very supportive, not juried, and completely confidential. And then I just think we have some really cool commercial. I just wanted to show some more commercial space. Here's another, this is our Hiawatha Lofts in Seattle. I love what they did with the chalkboard paint, and they sell lots of cool candy and really neat little jars with fun packaging. So I just had to show that picture. And also reiterate why commercial space in an ArtSpace development is so great. We really strive to support new creative businesses, and we do that by mostly delivering the commercial spaces move-in ready. Depends on how you want to use the space. If it's a more elaborate use with equipment and kind of build-outs, you will have some tenant improvements, but essentially we're delivering the commercial space ready to move in with minimal tenant improvements, and the square footages tend to be a little bit smaller and also below market lease rates. So I think with that kind of process, we're eliminating some of the barriers to entry to starting a new business. So if you are interested in commercial space, I would love to hear from you, and I think that's it. Oh, nope, there's one more slide. So we have, we've got tons of different types of businesses. This is, in our Minot, North Dakota, we've got this really cool Turtle Mountain Gallery. They specialize in native arts, but we've got yoga studios, coffee shops, galleries, cooperative galleries. We have a lot of cooperative galleries in our Seattle properties. Tons of different possibilities, but we do They're almost all exclusively creative-oriented businesses and small businesses. A lot of them are new businesses. Don't rent to chains. And that's it. So again, best way to keep in touch with us as we're going through this process is signing up for property updates at artspace.org/Hamilton. There'll be at the bottom of the screen a little link that says Get Property Updates, and then you can register for our constant contact that way.